Welcome back to the Religious Studies Podcast. I hope you're ready for another deep dive into fascinating religious topics. As always, this is AI-generated and fact-checked by our expert Bastian Freiborg, so you can be sure you're getting accurate information.
It's always great to be back. I love exploring these thought-provoking concepts with you.
Today, we're going all the way to the Hawaiian Islands
Aloha.
to explore the fascinating connection between religion and the landscape. We'll be focusing on Pele, the goddess of volcanoes.
This is such a great example of how different cultures view the divine and its connection with the natural world. It's going to be an exciting one.
Right. Specifically, we're looking at Pele and her connection to the Hale-ma'u-ma'u crater on the Kilauea volcano. But before we jump into the specifics of Pele and her fiery home, I'm really curious about this idea of narrative topographic unity that came up in the research. Can you explain what that means and how it connects to Hawaiian religion?
Yeah, it's a really important concept when we're thinking about how Hawaiians view their world. Narrative topographic unity basically means that the landscape isn't just a background to their stories and beliefs. It's an active participant. Every feature, from mountains and valleys to even individual rocks, has a story, a history, and a spiritual meaning.
So it's like the land itself is like a living text, and the stories are part of the fabric of the place.
Exactly. And these stories aren't just some abstract myths. They really inform how people interact with the environment, what they consider sacred, and even how they explain natural events.
Now that makes me think about Pele's journey to Hawaii. It's not just a migration story. It's a journey that happens across the islands themselves, right?
Absolutely. The myth tells us that Pele traveled from island to island, searching for the perfect place to call home before finally settling in Hale-ma'u-ma'u. Each stop on her journey is marked by specific geological features, volcanic eruptions, and other natural events.
It's almost like her journey is part of the landscape, like a physical reminder of the myth.
Yeah, I like that, a physical reminder. And that brings us to Hale-ma'u-ma'u, which is, well, way more than just a crater. It's like the heart of Pele's domain, where you can really feel her power.
Aside from it being connected to Pele, what makes it so special?
Well, visually, it's just an incredible sight. It's this huge, dynamic crater that's always changing because of the volcanic activity. But the meaning of the name Hale-ma'u-ma'u adds a whole other level of significance.
Okay, so what does it mean?
It translates to fun house, or sometimes fern home.
Interesting.
And it refers to a specific type of fern that grows really well in that area.
So even the plant life plays a part in what makes this a sacred spot.
Exactly. And it gets even more interesting when you consider what it's like to actually be at Hale-ma'u-ma'u. I mean, you have the visual spectacle of the crater, the smell of sulfur in the air, and even the songs of specific birds that add to the feeling, especially around dusk.
Wow, it sounds like a place that would make you feel awe and reverence. And speaking of reverence, this brings us to Pele's curse. You know, the belief that taking lava rocks from Hale-ma'u-ma'u will bring you bad luck.
Oh yeah, the curse. It really captures the imagination, doesn't it? People send letters to the park with the stolen rocks, talking about all the terrible things that have happened to them since they took the rocks.
I even read about these services that offer to return the lava rocks to Pele for people. Like there's one called the Volcano Gallery that does this. They even add a good luck plant and orchids as offerings.
It's pretty amazing how these beliefs evolve and change with the times. But the question is this belief in Pele's anger a modern invention? Or is it something deeper rooted in traditional Hawaiian culture?
That is a great question. Is there anything in the historical records that could tell us more about this?
There are actually some accounts from early Westerners who visited Hawaii that suggest there was already this reverence for the volcano and people were afraid to disturb it. For instance, William Ellis, a missionary, visited in 1823. He said that Hawaiians warned him not to eat ohilo berries, which is a fruit that's sacred to Pele.
Interesting.
They felt that disrespecting the volcano, even in small ways, could lead to bad consequences.
So there was definitely a feeling that the volcano was sacred and shouldn't be messed with. Are there any accounts from the Hawaiians themselves from back then?
Yeah. Another missionary, Hiram Bingham, wrote about meeting a woman who said she was a prophetess of Pele. She yelled at him and his friends for disturbing Hale-ma'u by rolling stones into the crater and taking pieces of what they call Pele's hair.
Pele's hair? I've never heard of that.
It's these really thin strands of volcanic glass fibers. They're formed during eruptions.
No.
Yeah. They're super delicate, and you can find them around active volcanoes. But for Hawaiians, these strands are sacred. They're like a physical sign of Pele's presence. Anyway, this prophetess demanded that Bingham and his friends leave right away, accusing them of disrespecting Pele and her home.
Wow, that's intense.
Mm.
So even though missionaries were coming in and trying to change things, there were still people who were fiercely protective of their traditional beliefs and upholding Pele's power.
Absolutely. And it shows how strong those beliefs were and the tension between respecting sacred spaces and the impact of cultural change.
It makes you wonder if the modern idea of Pele's curse, whether or not it was around back then, might actually be a way to emphasize the importance of treating these sites with respect, especially now that they're so easy for tourists to visit.
That's a really interesting thought. And that actually leads us to another fascinating part of this whole story, how Pele is depicted in Hawaiian art.
Yeah. I was looking at some images earlier, and it's amazing how artists can show both her destructive power and her more nurturing side.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? There are images that really focus on her destructive ability, showing her as this powerful woman surrounded by fire and lava. But then you also see portrayals that show her as a creator and a protector of the Hawaiian people. It's that mix of qualities that makes her so fascinating. It's a really cool mix, isn't it? It shows how complex she is.
It's like nature itself, right?
Yeah.
Like volcanoes, they can be so destructive, but they also create new land and change the environment.
Exactly. It's central to understanding who Pele is. And it makes me think of these two different portrayals of Pele that we were talking about earlier. Herb Kawanui Kane's depiction versus Arthur Johnson's.
Oh, yeah. Can you remind me how each of those artists approached showing Pele?
Well, in Kane's work, Pele's this really regal and powerful figure. You can just feel this contained intensity coming from her. She's got these piercing eyes and her flowing black hair and red dress. It really adds to that feeling of power and passion.
It sounds like a very stylized, almost majestic way of showing her.
It is. It really is. Now, Johnson's portrayal, it's totally different. He puts Pele in the middle of this fiery, almost chaotic landscape. She's surrounded by molten lava, and her features are more obviously Polynesian. It's like his Pele is the raw energy of the volcano itself.
So two totally different ways of seeing her, but both seem to capture something essential about who Pele is. It's fascinating how those interpretations all come back to that same idea of Pele as this force of destruction and creation tied to the volcanic landscape.
And it's that connection that makes her story live on for so long. Even today, I mean, centuries after Christianity came to Hawaii, people still believe in Pele's power.
It speaks to the profound relationship between the Hawaiian people and the volcanoes, doesn't it? It's a great example of how our environment can shape how we understand the divine. It makes you think about how the places we live in can influence our beliefs, and then how those beliefs, in turn, affect the way we interact with the world.
For sure. And here's something else I find really interesting. Even scientists who study volcanoes, sometimes they'll use the image of Pele when they're explaining their work. You know, they might say that a volcano is waking up or angry, using language that comes directly from those cultural stories about Pele.
That's so interesting. It's like those two different ways of understanding things, science and storytelling, are coming together and enriching each other.
Exactly. It shows that even in our modern world, with all its technology and science, mythology still has power. It helps us understand the world in a way that goes beyond just facts and logic. It brings us back to that idea of narrative topographic unity we talked about. The stories and the land are inseparable, and that's what makes them so powerful and relevant even today.
Pele's story really makes you think about how our beliefs and stories affect how we see places and the power of nature. If we believe that the landscape itself is a manifestation of the divine, does that change the way we interact with our environment? Does it make us more respectful or maybe even a little afraid?
That's a good question. It definitely makes you think about how we humans see ourselves in the world. Are we separate from nature or are we part of it? And how do those stories we tell, like the ones about Pele, shape how we view that relationship?
It's a lot to think about. This has been such a fascinating look at how landscape, myth, and human experience all weave together in the way people revere Pele.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. It really reminds you that even in a world that's becoming more and more globalized and technology-driven, the stories we tell about the land, the spirits we believe live there, and the rituals we do to connect with those forces, they all still hold a deep meaning for us.
They really do. It's like this connection to something so much bigger than ourselves. And as we're wrapping up our deep dive into the world of Pele and volcanoes, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought. If every place has a story, what stories does your landscape tell? What beliefs and myths have shaped the way you see the natural world? And how might those stories guide your actions and choices in the future?
Those are some great questions for everyone to consider. Every landscape has its own unique stories, just waiting to be discovered and understood.
That's right. Thinking about those stories, those beliefs that are woven into the places we live, can give us a whole new way of seeing our relationship with the environment.
It can make us appreciate nature even more and approach it with a sense of wonder and respect.
Well said. This has been such a captivating journey, exploring the world of Pele and the connection between religion and the landscape in Hawaii. A huge thank you to our expert, Bastian Freiborg, for sharing your insights with us today.
It's always a pleasure. I love digging into these topics and finding those layers of meaning.
And to our listeners, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and we'll see you next time on the Religious Studies Podcast for another deep dive. If every place has a story, what stories does your own landscape tell? What beliefs and myths have shaped the way you see the natural world? And how might those stories guide your actions and choices in the future?
Those are really interesting questions. It's like every landscape has these hidden narratives just waiting for us to discover them and try to understand them.
Exactly. And thinking about those narratives, those beliefs that are part of the places we live, can give us a whole new way of seeing our connection to the environment.
Yeah, for sure. It can make us appreciate the natural world even more and maybe approach it with more respect and the sense of wonder.
I love that. Well, this has been an absolutely fascinating journey exploring the fiery world of Pele and this really deep connection between religion and the landscape in Hawaii. A huge thank you to our expert, Bastian Freiborg, for all your amazing insights today.
Oh, the pleasure was all mine, really. It's always exciting to delve into these topics and uncover those hidden layers of meaning.
And to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, stay curious, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive into the world of religion.